Hello, thinkers. Welcome to what is the 7th episode now?
7.
Dang, episode 7. I'm your host, Josh, and that other voice you're hearing is my lovely wife, Mallory.
Hi.
So for today's episode, we are going to talk about fixed mindset versus growth mindset in kind of a artistic way. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. We'll just kind of go with the flow.
Us. Yeah,
exactly. So initially what I wanted to do for this discussion is kind of talk about how, and I learned this primarily in an art class I took in college, but how if you put more time into something, you'll get better at it. And for instance, this was a drawing class, and so we would spend, I think a week, maybe 2 weeks, drawing one thing. And I remember it being just...
Was it good? Did you end?
I mean, when it was finished, I was like, this looks like what I tried to draw. I'm no artist. I don't think I should be paid for what I do, but I definitely was proud of what I made, and I got a good grade. But I mean, again, it's an art class. Grades can kind of aren't real, as long as you do your best.
Yeah. Aren't as
it's not like I was in...
Yeah.
It wasn't my degree.
Yeah.
So, it was just an introductory course, and you just trying is pretty much good enough. And but it was interesting because you can kind of use that with everything in life. The more time you put into something, the more practice you put into it, the better you get. And that kind of comes with this growth versus fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is where people believe that you can't get better at something. Like, you have a set skill that you're born with, talent to draw, and let's say you aren't as good at, painting.
Okay.
And so the fixed mindset would be like, okay, well, you can't get better at painting because you just don't have that skills. Yeah. Whereas the growth mindset is you can always grow, improve, and
learn new things.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the question that I want to propose today is, do you think that we, I guess as a human race, not just we as in you and I, not, as the collective we.
The collective we,
yeah. Are we capable of doing anything we put our minds to, or is there limitations that you can only go so far based on the, how the gifts you were given at birth and what your upbringing and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting concept. What it reminds me of, I did an independent study in college, and it was a psych independent study, obviously, because my degrees were in psych. And my professor gave me this book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. And Malcolm Gladwell is a pretty big name in the psych community. He's got a few other kinds of books, but this book Outliers was super interesting. And if psych is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend it. But he phrased the question: is there any such thing as prodigies?
Yeah, and that's basically the question I'm asking.
Yeah, because he was like, are there prodigies, or is it the amount of time you put into something?
Right, okay.
Or what other kind of factors he talked about, and I may be butchering this. Oh my goodness, this was 7 years ago now, so I can't
That's
even
gross.
7
years.
I know.
Let's just move on past that. I already struggle with time.
I know. Josh is gonna be stewing with this all night. But anyway, so he mentioned this hockey team, and how some kids were better and seemed more natural at this at these physical hockey abilities than others. But he was there's a cutoff time for this hockey team.
Yeah.
And he's were those players better because they were older on the older side of the spectrum because of the cutoff? You know what I'm saying? And he phrased that question too, and I never would have thought, if I'm watching this hockey team and I see a player who's got more natural abilities than or I think it's natural abilities, he's just better or she's just better than the other player.
Right.
I never would have been is it because they're older than their teammates and thus more developed.
Right.
You know, of course, this you know, obviously was centered around like a kids hockey team.
Yeah.
But he just phrased a lot of, you know, good questions, and he talked about how, you know, you need to do something for 10,000 hours in order to be like a pro at it.
Right.
And then it got me thinking, you know,
10,000 hours, golly, how many days would
I
that
don't even
be?
know. I mean, I've been playing my saxophone for, I mean, I don't play it anymore. Sorry, Dad.
She's still pretty good.
No, I am not. Don't go tell people that. No, I don't play it anymore, but I mean, I played it from when I was, 5th grade all the way up through 12th grade, and then after, because I played at a church. So it's like, you know, I probably didn't even hit 10,000 hours, even though I played for that many years, you know?
Right.
But it got me thinking, you know, too, you know, what I remember I had to write these papers every week about this book. And, you know, it got me thinking because you know, my professor phrased this question like, you know, do you think that there are, you know, my main question that I had to answer was, are there prodigies, or do you think it all has to come down to like mastering something because of the work you put into it? And, you know, I think you can naturally like something. I know several people who are naturally gifted, you know, in certain areas. But I feel like when you're naturally gifted with something, you're
tend to
interested.
go toward, you try to do more.
You're drawn towards it. So thus you put the work into it to master it. So maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It seems to be the theme of everything we do. But it's interesting that you say that, because growing up with soccer, I had a similar thing. I think I tried out for select 6th grade.
For anyone who's like soccer inept like me, that's the good team.
Okay, it's not the good team. There's multiple branches of different select versions. Mine is not the best or the worst, but they didn't have one in my age group, so I had to be the year older.
Okay.
And because of that, I was one of the weaker
Youngest,
players. Yeah, I was definitely the youngest, and I remember how rough that was for me, and both socially and, you know, physically. And during that time, I had tons of knee problems too. And I remember though, when I went back to my own age group, I did better. Like I performed, I could actually perform.
Yeah, and
do
compete,
right, and because of that, like it pushed me to become better, and it, you know, impacted who I am and the path I took in high school and stuff. And but I also think it's interesting. It kind of flips. Like in the beginning, it's like, okay, you typically don't perform as well as the older ones because they're more developed. Yeah. But then in the professional league, the older you get, the less you're. Yeah. So this is a really interesting concept. Yeah. And while you were talking, I was very rude and looked up how many hours
that you played soccer.
No. How many hours are in, like, because I was wondering how many hours are in a year. There's 8,650. So that's like an hour and like
spend more than a year of your life on something.
Yeah, like just that though, because that's all 24 hours, and that's impossible. You can't do that. So, if anything, we're all masters at sleeping.
Cool.
Yeah, put that on your resume.
Yeah, at least I've done something.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, and then it got me thinking too, and I phrased this, you know, I actually had a conversation with my professor about this, because I said, you know, in school, I was one of the younger ones, and I never did as well as the other people. Now, I'm not saying it's because
your birthday and the cutoff? You were the youngest in your class?
I was the younger.
Okay.
And I'm not saying this is purely why. I think there are several reasons why I did not perform at a level that a lot of other students were doing, but like, you know, I was in kind of a lower level math class all throughout school, and then when I got to college and I had to take, you know, your entrance exams to see which classes you fit into, I tested into the highest, like one of the highest maths.
Right.
And I was like, nah. When she told me, she was like, this is impressive, and I was like, no, it's not. I was like, something's wrong.
Right.
You know? But I think part of it is that I had maybe caught up at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I think I'm talking a lot about myself. Oh my gosh. I apologize to everybody. You know, I think part of, like we said, part of human nature is wanting to figure something out, like the answer to why. And so it just, you know, I've been thinking about, you know, I was thinking about that at that time because I was new to college, you know, and
defining yourself. And plus it's that thing where you were probably curious, like, oh, you know, I want to do my best right now. I want to see how. Yeah. And no one would know. Like, that's the cool thing about that. Besides the people who are setting you up for the math class.
Right.
No, there's like no, you know, SAT.
Right.
That kind of stuff, standardized tests.
Right.
And so there's not that pressure because it really doesn't matter how well you score on it. Like, in all honesty, like, unless you want to be a mathematician, it really doesn't, like, so
once you're into college, I feel like the ACT is like irrelevant.
Yeah, almost. Or ACT, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I should say some of it.
That's with a lot of things, though. There's a lot of things in school.
I don't even remember the ACT. I just remember I was so hungry during it.
I remember being super nervous the whole time. I did not like tests.
Test anxiety?
Maybe, I don't know. And I've always...
I was thinking about lunch. I was like, screw this.
And I've always felt...
It was chicken night day.
Negative, so I always thought I was dumb.
Potatoes.
They gave you lunch? That's nice. They didn't give us lunch. Anyway, we had to provide our own lunch for ACT. What are you talking about? You took ACT in school. But,
I was like, yeah, they provided us with lunch at school.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what kind of school did you go to?
Prison.
Prison.
No, school was not bad.
The worst part of prison?
The Dementors. But...
Maybe we didn't get lunch on the AC. Anyway, back to it.
So, but that kind of goes into it as well, I think, is your mindset when you are learning and doing these. Because you can learn... I have vivid memories of learning something and hating every second of it. Wow, words are so hard for me. And doing porn and think that I'm bad at that. But then later in life... I tried again, and then I'm passing. Like, English was something I did not enjoy growing up. And now I read all the time. I thrive on literature and all this stuff. And it's just so weird that I didn't, like, go to that before. And it goes down to that, again, like, what people praise you in what you do. Like, I always got a lot of attention from home or, like, from soccer. Like, and so I was like, okay, I'm the soccer guy.
Bend it like Beckham.
Oh my gosh. No. But because of that, I pushed myself to this point. And I remember having a goal in high school for soccer, and I was able to get that goal. I don't want to like toot my own horn or anything, but I remember getting it and then being at this thing and being recognized for it or whatever. But then there was a step above that, and I had no idea it existed. And then I was like, well, this was for nothing. Like, there's something better than this. Like, I'm not as good as they are or whatever. And so it made it completely go down. And then once the next goal was college or whatever. And in that setting, I realized that, okay, soccer really isn't this thing that I thought I needed and wanted, but I had put all this time. And this is this thing that I'd really like to know about the outlier thing. And maybe it's just I'm fascinated with identity, I think. But anyway, eventually you get to this point where you, especially sports, where you physically, like, let's say you're lucky. I think it's like, what, 5 or 2, maybe not even that. I think 5% is too high. Play professionally. And let's say you're that lucky percentage. Eventually you're going to have to retire because your body physically cannot go on. At some point, then this identity that you framed for yourself is no longer true.
Yeah.
So it just makes you wonder, like, okay, in this outlier situation, what happens to these people once they've been surpassed? And that's another thing that's...
When they've peaked.
Right, and if you compare yourself to others, like let's say these prodigy people, like there's always going to be someone who's going to beat you at what you're doing, or eventually like you become, like you're only the it crowd or it thing for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And it just makes you wonder, like, how does that, go with this growth and fixed mindset too? Because eventually, like, once you find your niche, is that at that point fixed? Like you're, like, I'm assuming you're still pushing yourself.
I think also to have like a growth mindset, you also need to have the ability to enjoy where you're at. If you want, because like you said, you work really hard to achieve this thing, and then there's something else, and so it diminishes all the work that you put into getting the thing that you have right then.
Right, and then there's another thing, the Sisyphus thing.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what that word means.
Where it's like a Greek or Roman myth or whatever, where the person, he's like pushing up a boulder up
Atlas?
a mountain. No, that holds the whole world.
Okay.
But the Sisyphus guy or whatever, he never reaches the top, and the whole point of life basically is the journey. That's what that comes from. Is like the act of doing.
Life's a climb, but the view's great.
Right. But that's the thing. Like, you spend most of your time.
I think you missed.
No.
What is it from?
I have no idea where it's from.
The Hannah Montana movie.
I haven't seen the Hannah Montana movie. All I know is the song, the shuffle, cowboy shuffle or whatever.
What are you talking about?
It's the,
Oh, the hoedown throwdown. The cowboy shuffle.
That's a better name, cowboy. Hoedown, throwdown. Come on.
Gotta throw some hoes down.
Yeah, exactly. Disney. Get a hold of yourself. But
what were we talking about?
We were talking about the view. But, like, even that's a good point. Like, that climb took hours. And then you're going to appreciate the view for what? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And then it's over. And you got to climb back down. So it's all about that climb. And if you don't find satisfaction in a climb...
Yeah, then what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? And then it's like, okay, well, where's this... And that kind of goes to motivation instead. And that's a whole nother topic. But how do we even get to the point of, okay, I'm in a fixed mindset right now because like...
I think maybe sometimes self-compassion. I've been learning a lot of self-compassion because I suck at it. And I think sometimes I get into a fixed mindset because when I'm not good at something or if I don't perform to the level I set for myself, I think, well, that's it. I just suck at it. No use trying anymore, Right. And so I think a big part of staying out of that fixed mindset is self-compassion.
Right.
And saying, okay, I suck at it now, but if I put some work into it, I might not suck as much later. Yeah. I will never be perfect at it.
Right.
But, if I put in the work, I could be better.
Right, and maybe you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that comes to that point, too, where it's like, okay, where's that line? And I guess it just depends on who you are as a person, where you decide, okay, this isn't for me. Like, I just can't do this anymore. It's unhealthy for me to keep going, both mentally and just time-wise. Like, yeah. And so that's why the label of, like, fixed mindset is like, okay, well, at some point, you have to come to terms and be like, okay, this isn't... I really am not... I've been putting... Like, let's say you hit that 10,000 hour and you still haven't improved. Mm-hmm. Like, is it okay then to be like, okay, this is obviously not for me?
I think it's always okay to just say, I gave it my best shot.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it. I'm not getting better.
Right.
And I think that's okay.
Now, do you think...
I don't think it's okay to just be like, this is hard, I give up.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't think there's shame in stepping away from something that you don't enjoy and you've put so much work into that you don't see any improvements and you don't see a future. You know what I mean?
And then the next question comes up then, it's like, well, it doesn't need to be that 10,000 hours, or can it be... Because, like, a year of your life is a lot. And that's rounding down. Like, it would probably be a year and a quarter. maybe.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm trying to
if you
think
do it
how
all 24
many
hours.
hours I put in to that children's hospital job. If it was 10,000 hours before.
No. Well, you have to think you work 8-hour days.
Yeah.
And then let's see, 40-hour weeks. You weren't even there a year. Right? Were you there? No, you weren't there a year.
Yeah. So, no, I did not.
So, but we know that was not...
Right.
You needed to get out of that situation and everything. And I think again, it just comes back down to you and your preference and how much you can deal with emotionally, physically, mentally.
And I feel like this can be anything. Like, hobbies.
Yeah.
Like, a new skill. Anything, you know? You pick up hobbies because you want to do something enjoyable. You want to learn something new.
Right.
And there's no shame in saying, I gave this my best shot. This isn't the thing for me. But it's not, it's, you know, that doesn't mean you stop looking or that you stop trying new things, you know.
Right. And it's also okay to devote tons of your life to something and then be like, okay, you know what, this isn't for me anymore.
Yeah, it was a season of my life.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's kind of exciting, too.
Yeah.
To be like...
Have the option.
And, like, you know... I know it's probably not exciting for a lot of people, but that's also like a mindset in and of itself, being excited for something new, something that you don't know, you know, is coming, or not being able to clearly see the next step. Right.
Exploration, that kind of thing. But at the end, I guess if you put an answer, it's both, you know.
Yeah.
You can have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, like
it's
always.
It's going to be like our answer 85% of the time.
This is the Goldilocks show.
Yeah.
It's just right there in the middle all the time. But, so we're reaching the end of our show.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think, if we're on to something or if we're completely crazy.
Yeah.
And, you know, let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about.
Yeah. And let us know if you've ever put 10,000 hours into something.
Yeah, I would love to know that. That's so fascinating.
And what you learned in your 10,000 hours.
And if you're still putting more hours into that thing.
And let us know if you'd like to play soccer with Josh.
Oh, gosh. I don't even play anymore.
I know. Just kidding.
My perfectionism gets in the way. Yeah. But, so, you know, do the whole, like, subscribe, share thing. It helps out a lot. Yeah. And then I hope you have a great week and a great rest of your evening. Until next time, never stop pondering.
Bye.